Hello, I am Mac, and it's time to get real. In this video, I will be debunking a common scapegoat that the political left likes to point to, and that is rich people. So, first of all, I'd like to point out that it's fairly hypocritical that the left will say that rich people are the greedy people that make bad things happen in our society because they're actually okay with a certain group of rich people, and that is celebrities. So, movie stars and singers, who many of them are millionaires, often vote Democrat, often vote with the left, and the left doesn't have any problem with them. They're okay with some people being a millionaire as long as they vote on their side. But then the ones that they point to are the billionaire businessmen that often vote Republican on the right. So it's kind of hypocritical that they're saying rich people are the greedy villains that make our society bad when they're okay with some millionaires, but then it's the billionaire businessmen that they point at because they fall on the other side of the political spectrum from them. Um, Now, billionaires, businessmen are very important for our economy because, and you've heard it before, that they have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of people working under them. Their businesses create jobs. I mean, you hear that rhetoric all the time that rich people create jobs because they've created businesses, they've created innovations that create jobs for other people. And this kind of goes along with what I was talking about in my immigrant debunking, scapegoat debunking video last time. That unemployment is often high, I said, because not because there's no jobs at all, but because there's not enough high paying jobs. Um, like I said, people will quit, or not quit, but they'll be laid off of their job and they'll search for a high paying job like they had before instead of taking a lower paying job. So the unemployment rate gets high, not because there's no jobs at all, because there's not enough high paying jobs. And businessmen, billionaires, they're the ones that make the higher paying jobs that work under them. They also make a lot of low paying jobs. So a good example would be Amazon that and let's go ahead and segue into how there is problems with big businesses both in the present and in the past. And I'm definitely not saying that there shouldn't be regulation. On the contrary, I strongly believe there should always be regulation for big businesses. Um, like in the past, in the Industrial Revolution, there was a lot of horrible things going on. Child labor, like in factories, and unsafe working conditions for all workers. That was really bad. And it was really good that regulation came along to control what big businesses were doing to their workers. So I'm not saying that they should be allowed to do whatever they want. Um, there should definitely be a regulation, but we do need those big businesses to create jobs. With how big our society is and how much technology has progressed, we can't survive with just small businesses. There has to be large businesses that employ a lot of employees in order for there to be enough jobs. But there should always be regulation because anytime there gets to be too much power, it corrupts. It corrupts what's going on. So there has to be controls on it. And examples of things in recent memory where, so I'm not saying all billionaires are good. There are greedy people that have committed fraud and stolen from people. Like good examples are Enron, quite a while ago, couple decades ago, I think. The whole Enron scandal happened, and there's a video by Cold Fusion in the description that shows about that. And then Theranos is a more recent scandal where a businesswoman um, tricked everybody into thinking she had a legitimate business and got a whole bunch of investors to give her money, and it was all fake. That there was no real technology being developed. It was just smoke and mirrors. So corruption definitely happens, and there are greedy people who take money and don't really have a legitimate business. But at the same time, there are a lot of legitimate big businesses that create jobs for a lot of people, and we need those for our economy to survive. They yeah, so I covered all that. So now they always say that rich people are greedy, and that a lot of this is born out of envy. So anytime somebody has something more than you, it's easy for people to believe someone that says, well, that person's evil, that person's greedy because they have more than you. And obviously envy is wrong. It's not good to envy someone else for having gotten something that you haven't got or haven't gotten yet. And so I want to show you that, and maybe they are, just because they are greedy and they do want to have a lot of money doesn't mean they're bad for our society. Billionaires do a lot of good. So I'm gonna read through some of the charitable giving that billionaires have done recently. This is from an article from 2018, which is also linked in the description. So in 2018, Jeff and Mackenzie Bezos, Jeff Bezos is the founder of Amazon, gave $2 billion to nonprofit schools and homeless charities. So that's just in 1 year they gave $2 billion to all those things, nonprofit schools and homeless charities. Michael Bloomberg, who created Bloomberg News, gave 767 million to help with things like education, public health, improving city governments worldwide. Pierre and Pam Omidyar, eBay founder, gave 392 million to various nonprofits, including ones that they funded and helped run. Steven Schwartzman, either a CEO or a founder of Blackstone Equity, gave 350 million to Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Stephen Connie Ballmer, Microsoft CEO and founder of a charitable foundation, the Ballmer Group, donated 295 million to that fund that they created. Paul Allen, a Microsoft co-founder, gave 260 million to a number of causes. Mark Zuckerberg, who is very much vilified because of Facebook's the Facebook scandal, is pretty well known that they like sold information and stuff. But despite that, they gave 213.5 million in 2018 to their foundation, which focuses on education, science, criminal justice reform, research, and healthcare. John and Laura Arnold, retired hedge fund manager, gave over 129 million to their foundation, which focuses on criminal justice, keeping prescription drug costs down, and improving schools. And then Jay Alex gave 200 million in 2018. Edward Bass gave 160 million in 2018. So now, the fact that they gave money, some people will say is for tax breaks, which may be true. Although personally, I think that they probably would have ended up keeping more money if they hadn't give charitable contributions at all. So that's kind of iffy. Honestly, I think if you want to say that they did it for personal reasons, I don't think tax breaks is really what it is. I think if they did it for personal reasons, it would be more to make themselves look good. An incredibly rich person gives to these charities, and then they can say, look, I'm helping society. Look how great I am. I founded this charity, and I'm a good person and everything. So if you want to point the finger and say that they're giving for personal reasons, it's more for fame and renown than tax breaks. They've already got billions of dollars. They don't care if they give a little bit to taxes, or really a large amount to taxes, but ultimately they're giving money somewhere. And I think they would rather give to a charity so that they look good rather than giving it all to the government. Um, so I don't think it's really about tax breaks. I think it's more about fame. Because when a person gets to the point where they have that much money, it's not really greed anymore. Because when you've got billions of dollars, all of your needs are cared for, and you don't really need or want more money. What you want after you have riches is fame and power, which also makes them sound bad, but it's more for fame, like to look good, being a philanthropist, rather than in order to get more money or to not have to give up more of their money. They're giving the money so that they can be look like a good person. But despite that, what does it matter what their motivations are? What matters is that they're helping society by giving to charities and research to improve people's lives. I think that's a lot better. Like, so what if they did it for personal reasons? They're helping society. So they're still a net positive for society despite whatever reasons they did it for. But they're still made out to be villains for those reasons. So, anyway, in conclusion, I would like to say that for these reasons, the fact that they create businesses and they help society through charities, that billionaires are not villains as long as they're not committing fraud, as long as they're not gaining their money illegally. They are a good group of people that are important to our society, just like immigrants are, that I talked about in the last video. The real danger when people envy and they vilify billionaires, the danger is if eventually what some people want, if they get what they want and they take the money from businessmen and redistribute it through society, that would be a very dark future. That's what happens in communism, where the poorer people take all the money from the rich people and redistribute it to everybody. That sounds like a good idea to some people, but it's not. It's basically stealing. You're stealing money from rich people, giving it to everybody else. But what happens is there's no longer an incentive to create businesses. There's no longer an incentive, because if you're not working towards the possibility of becoming wealthy, you have no motivation to innovate and create a business, because they're just going to take the money back away from you. So there has to be an incentive in society to work towards a better life. If everybody has the same amount of money and is forced to do a certain job, which often happens in communism, there's no reason to work hard to make better products and make a better society for people, because you're going to always get the same pay no matter what. And you can see from what has happened in communist societies. North Korea is a really good example, where secretly over 90% of people are poor and living in poverty in North Korea, and just a small elite group of people get to live in Pyongyang and live a somewhat rich life, North Korea only lets people film what life is like in Pyongyang and not what's like in the poor rural areas. So they make it look like they're a really rich, happy society, and really, it's exactly like people fear, where a small group has all the riches and everybody else is poor. So communism doesn't work. It always ends up with all the money being in the power of the government, and everyone else is poor. So don't vilify billionaires, billionaire businessmen, because if eventually you make them out to be so evil that everybody steals their money from them, then we'll be in a dark, evil future. So, yeah, for all those reasons, I believe that rich businessmen are a scapegoat that we should not vilify. But I'm out of time. I have been Mac. Stay safe, stay woke, and get real.